David, thanks for joining us tonight. We're bored out of our minds, so we're just thinking of everybody that we can call
Yep.
and have
Yeah,
a chat with.
I know. Yeah, aren't we all, man? Yep,
The
absolutely.
walls are
Well, thanks for
closing in.
I know. I
The
know.
wives are getting boring,
Yeah.
But
Overnight, everybody's become a solitaire player or a tabletop simulator player, right?
absolutely. I think I've ordered like 3 solitaire games, and I've been begging some of our publisher friends. I'm like, can you send us those solo games?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Alexander's better than me. He'll solo, like Normandy 44 and the Dark Valley, and
Right
I'm not
now,
that
my
brave.
laptop is set up on top of enemy coast ahead Doolittle. I had to move some counters out of the way.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but thanks for taking the time tonight. And I don't know, we just wanted to talk to you because we think you're a pretty decent designer.
Yeah, thanks, man. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And we were just talking beforehand. You put out, like, what did we decide? 4 games
I think it
last year?
Yeah, I think it's like 4 last year is what it wound up being.
That's insane.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Some of them, some of them turn around pretty quickly, but some of them are in works for years, right? Like, I think Undaunted Normandy, it really started like 2014, right? So they just all kind of converge at the same time sometimes.
Yeah. Is there like a spark that gets them where they can move ahead, or is it just a time thing?
Well, it depends. Like Undaunted actually had been signed by a different company, and then that company never published it. So I got it back, and it went through some craziness, and then some they get signed, and somehow they get to the top of the queue, and they come out quick. So, yeah.
Who is that other company? Can you name them?
Yes, but not on the.
No, I understand. I've heard that a couple of times, that a designer will have a design with someone for a couple of years, and they decide not to do anything with it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's frustrating for you.
Yeah, I guess it kind of doesn't matter now. Like, if you've got enough projects going on, you don't really care. But at the time, it was like one of the very first games I had worked on. So it was disappointing, But man, I could not be happier. Like, it wound up being with Osprey. Ironically, Osprey had been looking at it early on. And they were just getting started, and they just couldn't sign it at the time. So it wound up going back to them, which is where it began, which is great because I could not, they are unbelievable to work with. So I'm really happy.
They're very happy they did that too, because it's been a big success as well for them.
Yeah. It's been great for all of us. We're digging it. And, that's just good because we get to make more Undaunted, right?
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Would Roland McDonald have been your artist had it not been for Osprey?
No.
Yeah.
No, and Roland's amazing, right? Like, I'm in love with his work. He's just unbelievable. Yep.
I hate to say it, but that would have been a tragedy we wouldn't have known about.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm telling you, the art's amazing.
I know. I love it. And I get art is subjective, right? Cool. But it's kind of blows my mind how many people have said they don't like it. It's cartoony. They don't like it. And I'm like, man, you guys are just crazy because it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Sometimes, just today before we got on, I was on Tabletop Simulator working on what comes after North Africa. And I was looking at some of his tile work. Hey, I can't talk about that. I'll get in super trouble. But
you can't.
But man, you just look at his tile work and you get lost in it. Like, it's just the art is so unique, and I love it. Yeah. Well,
to me, it really sets a thematic tone, and I loved it from the moment I think you shared some first images. I was like, man, that's really, it's almost perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why, it would have been a tragedy we would have never known about, because you would have chosen some other decent artist, and I'm sure it would have looked fine. But man, I think it really made the game, really set it off and helped it stand out. The gameplay is amazing, but the art, I think, really catches the eye.
I agree.
Well, it's one of those things in that game where it could have been easy to have mediocre art that I think some war games suffer from, and having tip-top artwork and the nice components where everything's kind of really thick cardboard, that gives it almost a greater appeal to people who aren't hardcore war gamers as well. Yeah. Like, it's a selling point almost, that it's a really nice presentation as well.
Yeah, I mean, how many companies do you think would have said, if I said, hey, I'm going to have 5 Rifleman A cards, but I want 5 different pieces of art for that? Like, there's just no way. And that wasn't me. That was them. That was all Osprey working with Roland, and every card is unique. And, this just, I mean, they had to pay for every single one of those pieces of artwork,
Yeah.
And so that's how much they care about presentation at shows.
But like I said, it just makes the game because even that 5 riflemen all do the same function. They just have a different letter.
Yep.
But they feel individual, and you kind of get connected to the guys. So
well, they all have a different, different expression on their face and a different name, right? And so you're like, oh man, I'm losing, whoever.
Yeah, exactly. Jackson died. No,
Yeah.
That's the way all those games are for me. But that's amazing. So let's talk about North Africa. That's kind of the next iteration of that Undaunted series.
Yep.
What's upcoming with that?
Yeah, so it's funny. We probably were done with North Africa before Normandy came out, as far as the design. So again, Osprey, putting trust in the product. They had commissioned us before Normandy was done to go ahead and work on North Africa. And the only real guidance they gave us was, hey, we'd like to see, I don't know if they said British or Commonwealth, but they, basically like, hey, what could you do? But that's it. That's all the guidance they gave me. So, and my design partner on that's the same guy I work with War Chest, Trevor Benjamin, right? Who's unbelievable, one of my best friends in the world. So I love working with him. But I do all the history part of it. So I do all the researching scenarios and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, man, what can we do that's interesting? And we knew that we wanted to be different scale. We wanted to be individual guys rather than, platoons. So we just wound up deciding on Long Range Desert Group, which I think is a cool, it's not that well explored, right? North Africa, but it's not the British versus the Germans or US versus Germans. It's Italians, right? So it's not something that's been done a ton, but we still got to check the box and say, okay, we'll have Commonwealth in here. But the big, I mean, there's 2 like super obvious differences in the game. One is the introduction of vehicles, right? That's not in Normandy at all, obviously. And then the other is like I already mentioned. So in Normandy, you take the role of platoon commander, and every counter on the board represents like a group of guys. So all the riflemen in a squad, all the scouts in a squad. In North Africa, every counter is a guy, and each guy has multiple cards. So you can kind of think of, rather than a counter is, a group and the cards are individuals, it's the counter is the individual and the cards are the efficacy of the guy. So,
do you still have the same kind of amount of counters on the board that you would see in a game of Normandy, where it wasn't overwhelming by any stretch?
Yeah. We are very careful because it is a deck builder. And no matter what, you're still mapping counters on the board to cards in your deck. And so when we're designing scenarios, we are very aware of how many counters you're managing and how many cards you're tying back to those. So you will almost never see a scenario where you're managing less than 3 counters or more than 8, right? Like that's the capacity that a person can really manage with a deck of cards. So the number of counters on the board won't really change, with the exception of the vehicles, because the vehicles are being controlled by the guys you're controlling. So those counters, you're not managing those counters, right? They're just where your guys are.
Any changes in the actual deck building itself, or is it pretty much the same system?
The system is the same. One thing that we changed that's a huge difference is some people didn't like the fact that in Normandy, the US and the German decks are symmetric. Now, in play, they're almost never symmetric, because one of 2 things are going to happen. Either at the start, you don't have the same availability to cards, or through the course of play, you don't deck build the same way. So in play, it's almost never symmetric. But they didn't like the fact that, I modeled the deck composition based on the U.S. infantry rifle platoon. And the reason I did that is because it follows a U.S. infantry unit. And the Germans that they battle over the course of Normandy is everything from like remnants of, Eastern countries that were forced into German, units to SS. So it's all over the place. So there's no way to accurately model a German unit, right? And so for better or worse, that's what I decided to do. Here, though, since every on the LRDG side, every guy is a unique guy, and you can kind of think of him as like kind of a commando guy. So everybody on the LRDG is unique, right? On the Italian side, there's a little bit of echoes of what you saw in Normandy because we have like a kind of a standard squad, if you will. But then we introduced the tank, and we have the tank operators, which are unique to the Italians. And then they also have aircraft they can call in, some really other unique things. So way more asymmetry in what's available to you. But the actual like mechanics of how you deck build are the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it just works so well. I mean, we've enjoyed the crap out of that game, and it's fun. I mean, we talk a lot about games. We like historical accuracy. We like, in some ways, design gimmicks. We like the asymmetry. But man, if a game's fun, it just, I don't know. It just makes it such a better experience. We play games for fun. And I know that's a hard argument too, right? It's so fun, Alexander, right? Isn't that what we...
No, but like we play an ungodly amount of games, and there are some games we're like 2 hours into, and I gotta look at you. Are we even enjoying this? Is this fun?
Yeah.
And it's a cardinal sin of gaming. Like, the game's got to be fun. Like, honestly.
Yeah. I like historical accuracy, but if it's not fun, I don't know. Because there's hex and counter games like Fortress Europa. We played that last year. We really enjoyed that. I have an itch to get it back out because I've been rereading some of the air rules and that's a big hex and counter game. I mean, I think it has 18 or 20 turns, and we played a smaller scenario, but it was fun. It was interesting. So putting fun into games, I think it's a talent, because I play a lot of games that aren't fun. Necessarily, but they're still good games. They're just not fun. So tell us about the tanks. I want to know about some of the stats of the tanks and how they work.
Okay. So there's only one in this one. There's only one tank. So the Italians have an M14, so it's a light tank, infantry tank. So, when we first started out, we're like, maybe the Italians have multiple tanks, et cetera, et cetera. But really, when it comes down to it, there's only going to be a few vehicles ever on the board, and we wanted to feel special when you were in the tank. So, the LRDG are going to have a hard time dealing with this thing when it appears. It feels fun and unique. So, it's the only vehicle, right? So the LRDG guys have a patrol truck, a gun truck, and a pilot truck. So each of those trucks have some different things that are unique to them. The Italians have a scout car, a truck, and the tank. And so all the vehicles are unique, but the tank is the only one where you have to actually have the crew member associated with that part of the tank to actually operate the tank effectively. So you have to have a driver to drive it. You have to have the gunner to operate the gun, etc. Now, this goes back to your question, your point about fun, right? Or accuracy and fun and stuff. Were members of a tank crew cross-trained, right? Yes, absolutely. So if the driver gets killed, could another guy have done it? Yes. We toyed around we went around and around and around about whether we should map to these positions or whatever. And it ultimately just became way more fun to say, you know what, the driver's the guy that can drive. And if the LRDG kills the driver, it's done. You're done. And in the confines of a battle that probably is taking 5-10 minutes anyway, that's probably not that unrealistic, right? So the individual cards for the driver, the crewman, and the gunner aren't special at all, except for the fact it unlocks the ability to operate those positions within the tank.
Okay, so those other vehicles you name, like the scout car and do those serve like the same purpose as the scouts in general? They're just
kind of
car, a vehicle.
Yep. So each vehicle can hold 3 guys. So one thing you gain by using the vehicles is a ton more mobility, right? So I can take an individual action with a guy who's driving the vehicle, and I can move 3 guys around. So that's great. And that is, it's the long range desert group. So it's very thematically, accurate. So none of the other positions are tied to individual guys. So anybody can operate any of those other positions for any of those other vehicles. But the actual position you choose to put a guy in has a unique thing it can do. So if you put a guy in the drive seat, he can drive that vehicle. If you put a guy in the navigate position, he can navigate, which is very similar to scout. Basically, you can scout contiguous spaces, and then you'll have like either anti-tank guns or heavy machine guns mounted in the rear of the Jeeps usually, and you're doing things like suppressing or attacking tanks or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So because of the mobility of the vehicles, is the board bigger? It's a little bit bigger.
Tiles? Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 22 tiles instead of 18.
Okay.
So I would assume, I would guess that over the course of Normandy, after the first couple of intro scenarios, the average board size was probably like 15 or 16 tiles, and in North Africa, we're constantly pushing the 22 tile max. So it is bigger. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it makes more sense. More mobility. You can have a bigger play area.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, I for one, am really looking forward to it. Can you give us a hint about what follows North Africa? Can you speak a code?
I would get in so much trouble.
Okay.
So is it World War II?
Yeah, yes, it is World War II. Now, and a lot of people have asked, like, "Hey,
East Front,
can you do
East Front?"
Well, this is what I will tell you. I will tell you because you can find this out for yourself. That the most two asked for things are Pacific and East Front. That's all I can tell you. Right?
Okay.
So
yeah.
You can draw whatever conclusions from that you'd like.
Ooh, Pacific. Okay. We love Pacific.
Pacific would be so good.
So good. So
it's funny because every time I think that most people are asking for Pacific, then you'll see a huge, East Front surge. So
yeah. I don't know. We played several dozen games on the East Front. We played less on the Pacific. I'd personally rather do some island hopping and bunker destroying and cave crawling. Man, Saipan, that was a game we really liked.
Doesn't that sounds perfect for Undaunted?
Yeah. Should be fun. Okay, I'll let you rest on that one. Let's talk about Sniper Elite, because I know that's more of a mainstream type game based on an IP, a video game from a couple years ago. Tell us about that. Where's that one stand at this point?
Yeah, so here's an interesting story, right? This is a great segue. So the guy who stood up, so Sniper Elite is a video game. I'm not a video gamer, so I'll reveal that to all the people out there. I'm not a video gamer normally.
Then how are you making a game?
So I'll tell you.
I love it.
Oh, you played it. Okay, all right. So you'll get to be the judge about whether or not I evoke the theme. So here's how it came about. Okay, so the Sniper Elite video game is made by a company called Rebellion. Rebellion's a UK company that has all sorts of other things that they're associated with. They wanted to stand up a board game division. So the guy who stood the board game division up, his name is Duncan Malloy. He previously stood up the board game division at Osprey, right? So when they decided they were going to stand up a board game division, Duncan was the one who signed Undaunted. So he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I've got this game, Sniper Elite. Would you like to work with me on this?" So it wasn't me saying, "Hey, I've got an idea for a Sniper Elite game. I'm going to pitch it to Rebellion," right? It was them saying, "Hey, we worked with you in the past. Do you want to work together?" So what's funny, this is the times we live in. He reached out to me on Twitter and was like, "Hey, if you were to make a game about a sniper, what would it be like?" Right? So that's how this whole thing got started. So if I'm working, it's funny because if I'm working on Pavlov's house, I've got like 400 books on Stalingrad, and I'll spend a year researching it. Yeah. So the closest thing I could do is I went and instantly got an Xbox and Sniper Elite and played a whole bunch of Sniper Elite, right? So now the good news is, early on, I said, okay, I want this to be a hidden movement game, right? So, Spectre Ops or whatever you choose your favorite hidden movement game. And I was fortunate that I had a buddy that when I lived in the UK, we were good gaming buddies. He was huge into hidden movement games, and he had play tested a lot of my other stuff. So that's the co-designer, Roger Tankersley. And once we decided to make a hidden movement game, it was where do we go? And we have a lot of similar design sensibilities. We wanted to play quick, wanted to be super rules minimalistic, and really embrace like hidden movement, right? At its core, without a whole bunch of fiddly stuff. With the twist being you have to kill people, right? Like a lot of hidden movement games, you're trying to really embrace the stealth part, whereas here, you're trying to both be stealthy but also pull off, how do I kill somebody from 8 spaces away and they don't know it, kind of deal.
And that one, I think it's going to Kickstarter.
Yeah,
when?
so it was supposed to go in this month. Well, it was supposed to go in March. Then it was going to be
Okay.
April. Now it's tentatively like the summer, like August maybe. And this is
Okay.
all 100% COVID-19 delayed, right?
Related.
Yeah. I mean, from the design perspective, we were ready to go, right? So the only thing I'll say is it just gives us a lot more time to polish it.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yep. Now I will say too, the other cool thing is that I don't know if it's been officially announced who's doing it, but there's going to be a solo variant. That's cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I'm not designing it. I don't design. Let me say if this is true. I've never designed a solo variant of a game that I've designed that's been a multiplayer game to start with.
Okay.
That's right. I struggle with doing that. I don't really do a good job because I want it to feel like just like the multiplayer game. So I either want to start with it being solitaire, or I want it to be multiplayer and let somebody else work their magic. So I just played the solitaire version for the first time, and it plays differently because you can't have a hidden movement game with one player, but it's really cool. So it's different but cool. Yeah.
So Alexander, having played that video game, I don't know anything about it other than what I've read. What are the hallmarks that you look forward to seeing in a board game?
So you, of all people, might appreciate how much I like that game, because that video game, you are one guy and everyone else is a bad guy, and you literally, painstakingly slowly, are crawling along the map behind this piece of rubble, this bicycle, this bollard, going into things. It's so measured, and you have to be so careful and cautious, and you get one shot at the bad guy, and you have to do it perfectly.
Yeah.
And so it's that tension of movement that if you make any amount of noise, those two guards outside are going to turn around, and it's 2-on-1, and you're done. Like, it's it's a very, very brutal game. And then they do this really cool thing, and I don't know if this has any part of doing it in a board game. When you take a good shot and it's like a headshot, it goes into this like a bullet cam, and it follows the bullet traveling all the way across the map, and it's awesome. It feels very satisfying when you pull it off.
Yeah. I'll tell you, when the game plays in like 45 minutes to an hour, maybe, right? And so when we were starting on it, that feeling you're talking about with like, oh my God, everybody in the world's looking at me. I'm trying to creep, and to me that works really well with a hidden movement game, because when you're playing a good hidden movement game, the person who's the hidden player feels like, how am I going to do this? I can't possibly pull this off. Yeah. And on the other side, you're like, wow, where is he? We can't find, and so both sides feel like you're losing all the time. Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great fit for it. Right. And so in the end, and the other thing we wanted to avoid was there are some hidden movement games, in my opinion, that take a little too long to ramp up. Like there's this kind of gets slow early on and kind of bogged down, and you don't really know and so we try to avoid all that. We try to go right into like super tension right from the start. So we'll see if we're successful, but
hidden movement, I'm thinking one of the games that we really enjoyed, Alexander, was that They Come Unseen, that sub game. Remember that one from Osprey?
Yeah, that was nice.
And I remember that feeling. It's like I was this side and I'm like, where in the heck are his subs? And then you pop up, and I know you're sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, he's going to get me!" So
you're one square away.
Yeah, right. You're right there. So I'm sure that'll come through in Sniper Elite. So that's one I'm definitely looking forward to. I love those kind of games. Once again, it's a little different.
Yeah,
some cool mechanics, and it can be interesting and fun to play. Yeah. I wanted to ask one more question about Undaunted North Africa. Is that still coming out around Gen Con?
So, they were originally scheduled to release for UK Game Expo, which is like super late May or June, that's when it was scheduled.
Okay.
I think the last time I talked to Osprey, it was still going to be on time. So if it's delayed, I mean, hopefully it's not any later than like July-ish, right? But certainly it should be in time for when Gen Con is scheduled to be, right? whether Gen Con happens or not.
If it happens, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
so another couple months, and we should be fighting it out on the deserts of North Africa. Look forward to that.
Yeah,
Sweet.
And the new printing of Normandy should be out because it's sold out right now, right? Which is great for me, but yeah, it should be coming back with the reprint.
How many copies did that sell, David?
I can't. I can't talk numbers.
They won't let. Okay,
they won't let talk numbers.
Was it more than 10?
Yeah,
more than 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead, Alexander. Sorry.
The second printing sold through 2 already, so this will be the third printing, which is great, right? So that's.
Oh dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had the one question about Undaunted North Africa. So with Undaunted Normandy, the terrain cards, it's a field surrounded by some hedges, right? I was wondering what the terrain in North Africa looks like, because obviously it's not just going to be desert, right?
Yeah.
What's the terrain there that we can expect?
Well, there's a lot of not a lot. There's a few fortifications, right? There's some small little towns, fortifications. There are some pretty significant hills, right? And so one of the new terrain feature that doesn't exist in Normandy are tiles that vehicles cannot enter, right? And that's due to the topography. So there are mountainous areas or broken desert area where the vehicles just can't go into that environment. So there's open desert, broken sort of lands, mountainy area, fortifications, towns, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just that aspect was really neat in Undaunted, because the tiles weren't just arbitrary squares. It was a square field. That makes sense. It's a really cool package, and I just want to make sure that translates into other areas.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, that was one of those games that I know we're talking about Undaunted Normandy again. We already talked about it, but I wrote those series of action points, just trying to give people a look into the rules. And I think I spent an entire one of those action points. It's 1,800 words on the stupid squares for the map, because they're so interesting. And I don't know, just it's so cool the way that whole game came together. I've really enjoyed that, and I can see that others that aren't necessarily war gamers have really shut up and sit down, did a fantastic review of it, and amazing.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, if people who aren't normally war gamers become war gamers because of that game, then man, I couldn't be happier.
Awesome.
Mission accomplished, right?
Go ahead. Sorry.
I hope that the offset squares thing is something that people will take advantage of in the future, right? Because you get all the benefits of hexes, right, without the oddness of what hexes do to you when you're doing from an art perspective, right? Because hexes force you to make some weird art decisions sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think squares allow for a little bit more flexibility. Certainly, from a production perspective, it's way easier, right?
Yeah. Well, and like you said, those offset tiles serve the same purpose as hexes. Yep. It's just graphically a different look.
Yeah.
So it really is hexes, just in the form of squares.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense, but that's what it is. I mean, the way they connect, it's just, I don't know. I was just fascinated by it. But, and you've also, so many of your games, Pavlov's House, that was the first game of yours that I played. I fell in love with it instantly. I played that game 25 times. Still have a hankering to go back to it, but we've got so many other games we've got to cover.
Yeah.
But man, I think that game and ITER has brought in just a different element that have now become more interested in historical, wargaming, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. It just recently, a couple of different guys, the One Stop Co-op Shop guys, and then Solosaurus, neither of which are necessarily war gamers, right? But both have come, one to Castellitter and one to Pavlov's House.
Yeah,
and that's awesome, man. I mean, I am not a grognard war gamer, right? I do like hex encounter games and stuff. Usually I'll play them with somebody else, right? It won't be me saying, hey, let's. I definitely have a lot of Euro influences and stuff, and I think you can kind of see some of that, right, when you're doing resource management kind of, or whatever. But but yeah, I mean, I think there's room for all of it, and if it opens it up to players who wouldn't normally play a war game, that's cool. Yeah.
Well, that was one thing I know as we've gone to Origins and Gen Con, and we love WBC. We hope that one day we can see you come to that as well.
Yep.
I don't know if it's going to happen this year or not, but Alexander shrugs because we've already got our rooms booked, and
I know.
I've asked off vacation. It's our highlight of the year. But when we go there, we're starting to see younger and younger people. Joe, is it Joe McLaughlin, Alexander? That guy's like a 20-something, I think, right? He's totally into war games, and it's so great to see that. We played Gandhi with him, and we've talked Front Towards Enemy and other games, District Commander Maracas, but I mean, it's great to see younger people like that being drawn in. I'm an old guy. I'm 47. Alexander, you're 32. 31.
I don't know.
David, I'm guessing you're like 38, 37.
I'm 41.
Okay, 41.
Yeah. Yep.
You just don't have much gray. A little bit. I can see a little bit.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah. But it's good to see those younger people, being interested in. And I think that's one thing I look at our audience. I think we have a good cross section. We have grown-yards that are, 80-year-old guys, Alexander, that we've sat there at WBC and talked to, and, and then 20-somethings. And I mean, we've even talked to quite a few female gamers. And I think that's awesome that, I think that old guard of thinking is, this isn't for young people, or this isn't for girls. And, it's great that that's not necessarily the case. So I think it's good. But anyway, bravo to you on the way you design those games that are interesting for us and draw in some of those new people.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So a great segue. Let's talk about your next Valiant Defense Series game that you've already, I know, started working on and even putting covers out.
Yeah. Yep.
So tell us about soldiers in postmen's uniforms.
Yep. Yeah. So this will be the next one. It's been on the back burner now for literally like 3 years, I think, right? From when I first started working on it. I guess, how did it come about? I posted on Board Game Geek saying, hey, after Castle Litter and Pavlov's House, what would you all be interested in? So that's what kicked it off, and tons and tons and tons of suggestions. I think the Alamo, and what's the other one that I always get?
Alamo would be really good.
Yeah, there's like two that I always get, Alamo and something else. It's funny, I can't think of it right now as good as a suggestion.
Masada from Masada is kind of like an ancient Israel type thing. That would be a great one.
That would be good. Yep. Yeah, that would fit. But this one came up, right? And I like ones that nobody's ever heard of, right? But
right.
Right, like me specifically, right? So tell me something I don't know about. So a guy named Michael Kochman, who is from Gdansk, right? Formerly Danzig, had suggested it. Hey, defense of the Polish post office on the first day of World War II. Polish post office in Danzig. And so I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Let's go do a little bit of reading. And man, it's amazing. Like, it's just another one of these epic stories of, valiant defense. So for people that don't know, it's literally, so the Free City of Danzig, post World War I, this sort of weird non-state kind of entity with Poles and Germans in it together, where Gdansk is today. And so there were territory within Danzig that was considered Polish. Some places like the post office, for example, that's like Polish territory. And so they knew that if World War II kicked off, that they were going to be a target, right, by the Danzig police, who were German aligned, as well as the SS, as well as the SA, etc. And so they planned for it, and they were ready. But I mean, they're still postmen, right? There's a couple of former military, but they're postmen. And so they held out for, pretty much a day. And at the end, the only thing that really stopped them from holding out longer was the fact that the Germans brought in fire trucks, doused the building with gasoline, and set them on fire, right? So that's a way to get people out of the building. So
wow.
Yeah. So it's a pretty bad story. It's the first game in the series where the defenders don't actually succeed in the defense of what's But I traveled. I was fortunate because I was living in the UK at the time. So my wife and I traveled to Gdansk, and we met Michael. And so we went to the post office to do the research. It's a museum now. So going there, being able to see it, see everything firsthand. And then Gdansk has an awesome World War II museum that we went to. So that'll be the next one. It's probably closer to Castle Itter than it is Pavlov's house because, like Castle Itter, it's one day, right? It's a tactical defense without any operational support. So mechanically, it aligns closer to Castle Itter. But I'm going to do some things in it for the first time I haven't done before. So I always try to figure out. There was a really awesome discussion that Volko Ruhnke had with Harold Buchanan recently on Harold's podcast that he's putting out right now, right? Some fantastic podcasts. And they were talking about modeling and accuracy and simulation and stuff. And Volko's point was it can never be accurate because it's not a one-to-one detailed. And it's true. And I would never. You've played my games; they're not simulationists, right? I'm trying to evoke something. And so in this, I'm like, well, what's the thing from this battle that I'm trying to evoke? And there was a lot of importance about where in the building they were defending at the time. So they started on the highest level. They had the high point. They were doing well. But once they were forced to go down, the battle started turning against them. And their last holdout was in the basement. So in this one, you'll actually be able to defend like the upper floors, the ground floor, the basement, all of that stuff will be different. And you'll be navigating those floors as the defenders. So it'll have some different stuff. And then I'm going to treat the waves of the attackers a little bit differently.
Okay. How many counters do you have? Because I know the other games, you're talking 30 to 35 counters, I think is generally what you've got. How many postmen are there?
I think, let me think of it. So this is one thing, full disclosure, this is one thing I'm struggling a little bit with the design. And so what I'm struggling with is, I want to say the total number of defenders is around 60.
Okay.
Of those 60, about 20 of them are really, really unique, right? So you know how in Pavlov's house and in Castle Itter, most of the guys are unique, right? There's very few duplicative counters. But in this game, really only about 20 of them have that sort of unique characteristic. And so what I think I'm going to do is end up consolidating the counters that are not unique to 2 people on a single counter. Because I want to have a lower ratio of people that are, duplicative, right? Or redundant, whatever. So it'll probably wind up being like upper 30s for the counter count for the defenders. Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I said this, but I really enjoy those games. For me, they're very easy to get into. They tell a great narrative. And I love how you add the tactics cards to make it harder. And, now when I play with the tactics cards, unless I'm doing a video playthrough because I don't want people to get scared because they realize, oh, crap, that's what those things do. They double this or, And so when I do those playthroughs, I typically just do the base games. Yeah. But man, those tactics cards they make it really hard to win.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I on Itter, when I use the tactics cards, I lose probably 75% of the time.
Yeah.
So if my rolls are good, I do well.
Yeah. And it's a really tough thing to strike the balance. Like what you don't want in a solitaire game is somebody to win too easily.
Yeah.
Right. Because people just want to play it one time. They're like, oh, I won. That
was easy.
What am I doing? And so the difficult thing is to provide a first play experience that's engaging, and once it brings people coming back for more, but to keep it difficult enough that they're willing to let me challenge myself with the gameplay. So it's tough. Yeah. Yeah. Trying to strike that balance.
Well, just, recently I've been playing a lot more solo games. We haven't played. When's the last time we played together, Alexander?
I think it was like
5 weeks ago.
Middle of February or something like that.
Yeah. It's been terrible. But so I started playing Tom Russell and Hollenspiel's Agricola series. Yeah. I have Charlemagne as well. Have you played those, David?
I haven't. I know them. I've watched. Who was it? Is it
Liz Davidson, maybe?
Yeah.
Solitaire.
Yep. So I've watched other people. So what I'll do, this is funny. I don't play a lot. Well, first of all, I don't play a lot of games, period.
Yeah.
The thing I play most is I play war chess with my son, right? So that's
I see those pictures.
Yep. So I don't actually get to play a whole lot. I do a lot of design and a lot of testing. And then beyond that, when I do get together, it's usually like a social gaming gathering. And so I'm not playing solitaire games. But what I do is while I'm jogging, especially during the winter when I'm on the treadmill, I'll watch other people play stuff, right?
Yeah.
Not just reviews, but like actual playthroughs and stuff. So I watch pretty much you guys, Nate, right? Nate Rogers, Liz. I watch all of Liz's stuff.
Yeah, Liz got good stuff. But the reason I bring that up is they have this really cool concept of these 3 cups. And into those 3 cups go the different enemies, and there's different dispositions. So you've got a friendly cup that you can draw allies from. You've got a unfriendly cup where they kind of just sit there in limbo, and you've got to either decide, do I try to make them friendly again through negotiation or bribery, or do I risk attacking and making them unfriendly so they go into the hostile cup, which the hostile cup is where you draw all your enemies that you're going to fight. So it's a very interesting, and Tom came up with that, and I'm sure he borrowed it from somebody in some iteration, but it is a fantastic system because you're playing that game, but you're also playing the game on the board. Right. Because you're trying to figure out, I need more troops, so I need to get these barbarian auxilia on my side. But if I attack them, they're going to get mad. So you can do peacekeeping, which is parade around and kind of make them a little pacified, and then you can bribe them to get them into that friendly cup. And I don't know, when I play a good solitaire game like that, it just blows my mind because that has so many applications, particularly for wargaming, because there's always dispositions of the different peoples involved. You might want to check that one out just because I could see you turning that into something or using a similar concept. Yeah. But man, it's a good game. I'm ready to graduate to Charlemagne, which is about another hour to play and about another 5 turns, but great systems. What games do you play in your free time when you get the opportunity? I know some of them, but
you like multiplayer or solitaire or either?
So multiplayer, because I know you got your little gaming group.
Yeah, so by far my favorite games are short, like an hour. Like how much tension can I pack into an hour, right? So the games I like are Watergate, 13 Days. Even like I love Blitzkrieg. I don't know if you guys have played it or not. Paulo More's.
We have not played that one yet.
It is brilliant, man. Like, so, it's just, good God, from the first chit pull, you're like, I'm going to make a stupid mistake and the whole game's going to come tumbling apart. So if you can pack a ton of game into a short time, that's what I love. I'm looking over at my shelf now to see what else I've got up there in that stack.
I know Few Acres of Snow has been one of your favorite games by Martin Wallace.
Few Acres of Snow is by far the most influential game I own, right? Like, I mean, I love it. Hands in the Sea, like, have you guys played Hands in the Sea?
I have not.
Yeah.
No.
So
I know it, but I haven't played it.
Yeah. Probably it's a better game, right? Like the designers said, hey, this is Few Acres of Snow, basically, right? Like it's clearly derived from it. It's probably, I guess, better technically, but I mean, Few Acres of Snow, I'm a French and Indian War lover, right?
Yeah, the theme's great.
Yeah, the theme is unbelievable, and it's by far the most influential game. Like, I wouldn't be designing games probably if it wasn't for that game.
Okay, for interesting. Sure.
I mean, it's 100%. That's where Undaunted came from, right? The inspiration was, how do I make a deck builder with the spatial? I love all of the Birth of America games, right? I also love team games, right? So Birth of America, Quartermaster General, those games. If it's a Euro war game combo, so a Waro, right? Waro. If it's a Waro or if it's a CDG that plays short, right? Those are that's my jam.
Okay. Have you ever played Wilderness War by Volko?
I have. Yep.
That's a great game.
Yeah, it's sitting. I've got sitting on my shelf. I'm looking at Wilderness War, Few Acres of Snow, 1754 is part of the collection, and I just backed the new. Who is it that's got the new block war game?
Worthington.
Yeah.
French and Indian War.
Yep.
Yeah, that one looks really good.
Simultaneous movement block war game. Sign me up, man.
Yeah. Hidden information. You know, it's funny. The first time we played Wilderness War, that was like 4.5 years ago. We played for Alexander. Was it like 8 hours over a 2-day period?
We played for at least 2 days, and it was like good through 4 hours each, and
it ended in a 0-0 tie.
Whoa!
And
that's
I
all.
remember. Well, it was so dumb, but I remember thinking I still had a good time, even though we tied. And
right.
I just thought to myself, how in the world did he design a game that came out that way?
Yeah.
But that was one we enjoyed on the French and Indian War. But
I think it's because he's brilliant, right?
Yeah, well,
I have a massive man crush on him.
Yeah, we just played Nevsky about 4 or 5 weeks ago. That was one of the last games I think we played together.
It was.
And we really just played the intro scenario, frankly, to get an idea for how the mechanics work.
Yeah.
And I'm enthralled by that game. It's so different than anything I've ever played. But really, it's that quintessential struggle between German and Russian on the East Front. I mean, that's what it boils down to. It's about supply. It's about, can I move on these frozen rivers and these muddy roads? I mean, it's just so fantastic. Yeah. We talk about it like that's a really fun, interesting game that I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to play well because we kind of bungled through it. But man, it was interesting.
How long did it take you guys to play the intro?
Well, it takes us forever to play everything we play. I'm going to be honest. I bet we played that for about 5 hours, Alexander.
Probably, but that that's us literally reading through everything as we go 100 times. So we're like, I don't feel bad about that. If we were to play it again, it'd be quicker, more over normal pace. But
and we also talk. When we come across something that's interesting, we do a lot of testing and challenging each other. Like, is this the way it's supposed to work, or what's the strategy behind this? And Alexander kind of gets
trying to model, right?
Yeah. So we do a lot of that. So any game we play, we add probably 2. We did Stalingrad 42 about 2 weeks before that. We started at 8 in the morning and finished at about 9 at night. Yeah. And it was only, how many hours was that?
We played 8 turns.
Yeah, it was like 8 turns over 13 hours. It was incredible. But we took a long break. So one last question I have for you. I see a stack of books behind you.
Yeah.
I see Old Hickory on the bottom.
Yeah.
The others I can't quite pick out. Are these projects you're working on?
Yeah. There's a bunch of Stalingrad and there's a bunch of 30th Infantry Division.
Okay.
I always have the books out for games that I'm working on. No, you know what? I can tell you this. So after Soldiers and Postmen's Uniforms, the next game I will do in the Valiant Defense will be the Defense of Hill 314 and the Battle of Mortain.
Okay.
So
30th. Nice.
Yep. And then after that, I think I'll leave World War II.
For a while.
Yeah, for the Valiant Defense. We'll go somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah. So what's the Old Hickory out for?
So 30. That's what the 30th ID is.
Yeah, that's what they were called. Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're called. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what else I can see on your shelves to scoop something, but it's not working.
Yeah, that's all the stuff that's out now.
It looks like there's a copper dragon in the back.
There is. You know what's behind the book? Hold on.
He plays D&D with his kids. I've seen him play D&D with his kids, which is awesome.
That's the good stuff right there.
Yeah.
So my son just turned 6. And so do you guys know what these are from?
Those are from HeroScape.
Yeah.
So
I have both of those.
I had a brand new, never opened copy of HeroScape that I gave him for his birthday. So we've been playing. We've got HeroScape set up on the table. War Chest is in the floor. So his games that we play, we've been playing War Chest nonstop lately. He's really good at it. HeroScape, Tiny Epic Tactics, and I thought there was one more that I'm forgetting. But he loves 2-player tactical skirmish games. That's his thing. I'm not one of those guys like, my kid's so smart, he can play really good because he can't read. He's 6 years old, doesn't know how to read, right?
Yeah.
He's like a math savant. He can't read at all. But he can. What I'll do, I used to like let him win at Worcester, take it easy or whatever, right? So what I will do now is I'll let him pick his guys. And I will pick guys that don't really have good synergy, right? But I will play as hard as I can, and I will never let him beat me. And I win probably 60 or 70% of the time.
Okay.
So he will do, man. He grokks it, and he counts coins in the bag. Like he gets it, man. He gets it full
That's
on.
great.
So, yeah, it's cool.
I lost my son about 15 years ago because I beat it too much. So I was trying to not take it easy on him, and he's gone the route of video games, and that sucks. I can't get him to play a war game or a board game with me now to do for anything.
Yeah, I'm lucky. My kids, all my kids like to play games. All of them will play any kind of storytelling game. We play D&D a lot together.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter's the least interested, but as long as it's like an engaging storytelling game, she'll be into it. My youngest daughter, my middle kid, she's 9, and she'll play like any kind of light Euro. So like Splendor, Azul, any of that stuff.
Okay.
She'll play anytime. And then my son, man, he's just like, he literally wakes up in the morning, comes to my office, knocks on the door, and says, "Let's play War Chest."
Nice.
That's the first every morning. Yeah. So, yep.
Nice.
So hopefully
yeah. Well, we've been talking for about 45 minutes. Alexander, do you have anything else you want to run by David, or?
I don't think so. I was going to ask more about the Valiant Defense series because I really liked in Pavlov's House the operational aspect of it, because there's something cool about seeing that big, large-scale stuff and how it funnels into the tactical, and seeing it so literally. It's really cool, and I wanted to ask if there was more of that coming in kind of 30th Infantry.
It will be, for sure. The Battle of Mortain will feature a ton of the operational stuff.
And so that's exciting for me.
Yeah, I'm I stumbled, and I know I'll make this quick. So I know I kind of stumbled into the operational elements of Pavlov's House, because the way that started was, I know you guys know this, but most people don't. Castle Litter was designed first. It was designed first. It was done. It was finished. And then I made Pavlov's House. And so when I started Pavlov's House, I thought it was just going to be, hey, some dudes defending a building, right? And then you're like, wait a second. No, they had a ton of, like, there's no way they would have defended that house by themselves, despite the Soviet propaganda. They had tons of help. And so you started peeling back the onion, and you're like, well, no, they had, tons of artillery support, arguably the most important thing, right? When you start looking at it, you're like, well, how can I incorporate this into the game? And one thing snowballed into another, which is how it turned into what it did, with the operational element being 50% of the game, right?
Yeah.
But people love it. Like, people love that part of it. And so it's kind of a win-win for me. I get to tell a story about the 30th Infantry Division. Probably the thing they're best known for, right, is the Battle of Mortain, which is cool for me personally. But it lends itself well to that, like, operational support, because there was air support, tons of artillery support, resupply, that kind of stuff. It was basically 5-ish days, right? But you'll see a lot of that in it, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like loading up your artillery with your tokens, and then having those Stukas just eliminate them.
Well,
that's the greatest thing in the history of the world.
The worst thing is when you've got all your supplies set on the ferry, ferry across, and they get bombed.
Yep, it happens to me all the time. But I do like that challenge of the operational side and seeing how it funnels down, and very well done.
Have you guys ever played? Have you ever played it co-op?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's how I first played it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The coolest story is I was teaching my brother-in-law and my niece. They were playing it. I was just teaching them the game, and she's 17. Okay, so 17-year-old girl playing Pavlov's House. She's doing the operational side, he's getting waxed in the building, right? He needs dudes. And he's like, hey, I need you to send me guys. She's like, no. I'm dealing with all these Stukas. I've got to get up to AAA. She's like, I'm not sending you guys, right? I've got my own stuff to take care of. So that's when it's at its best, right? It's when there's two players are like, no, man, I've got stuff to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, Alexander first played that. We did it co-op after I'd probably played it 10 times solo. And it's a great game. That I love Iter. I love Iter because of the story it tells and some of the interesting elements like Boratra and the French prisoners, but I miss so badly. And I think I made that comment in my review. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I miss the operational, and then I even miss the milk house, going out and doing your little side. What do you call those? I'm trying to think of the word.
Storm assaults.
Assaults. Oh, those are so fun.
Yeah.
Most of your guys die, and but so good.
Yeah.
Well, David, my friend, we appreciate your time tonight. Yeah. Thanks for chatting with us for a while. My guess is we probably might see you at Gen Con, but I'm not sure. We go back and forth whether it's going to be on or not, but and we still talk about it's an hour and 40-minute drive from our house to your house, so I would love one time to come over and is it Chris Blackford is your gaming buddy?
Yep, that's right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
We can bring a good coin game, or we can. I mean, man, it would be fun. We'd love to do that sometime.
Yeah, let's do it as soon as we can. Right, let's make it happen.
Yeah,
for sure. I'd love it. Yep.
Well, thank you so much, and we appreciate you here at the Players Aid and all the great games you make, so that we can review them and play them and have fun. So keep it up.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good chatting with you.